Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a quote written by Mr. Richard Dawkins. Mr. Dawkins is a British evolutionary biologist and author of many books, one of which is his bestseller, The God Delusion. I'm going to read you the quote. The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, malevolent bully. After reading this quote, I can clearly see that Mr. Dawkins is on the mission to bring as many people as he can down to his deceitful convictions. He tweeted that he was unable to disguise his pleasure after he had learned that the sales of The God Delusion have topped 3 million copies. And I wish to think that his pleasure was only for the financial benefit of those sales. For fairness' sake, I would agree with Mr. Dawkins with one thing, was the fact that the Old Testament may be considered one of the most violent books ever written. It describes with great accuracy indeed, and in great, graphic, numerous details, cruel historic events. But the description of the events that took place in the past and the description of God's personality is absolutely not the same. Before we start digging into this quote, I would like to point out a few things. Firstly, the Old Testament, as well as the whole Bible, is proven to be an accurate historical document. Numerous archaeological findings confirm up to this day the validity of this statement, and categorizing it as fiction is misleading and absolutely unscientific. Secondly, God's nature is constant and it does not undergo changes. Therefore, the God of the Old Testament is the same God as in the New Testament. God does not contradict himself. God does not change his mind under the weight of circumstances or some emerging facts. He is not a human. Thirdly, we must understand that everything has come to exist through God and that He is the creator of everything. Now, the Bible does talk, in fact, about God as jealous and the one who does not give His glory to another. Don't we do the same thing? Is that necessarily a bad thing? Is that necessarily a bad characteristic of God? If we dive into it a little bit, I'm pretty sure you will be able to see the other side, the other meaning of the word jealous. Are we happy and willing to share our rewards, achievements, earnings with somebody else, with somebody who put zero work, zero effort, zero value into those achievements? Absolutely not. Why do we even have copyright regulations anyways to start with? Let's just allow everyone to freely take credit for our hard work. With God it is the same thing. God doesn't feel jealous about our success. He feels understandably jealous about people thinking that his work was done by somebody else or even something else. He wishes to rejoice in our acknowledgement of his work. And it is absolutely not selfish for him to do so. In fact, it is quite selfish for us to reject it. God is just and forgiving, and it is an absolute opposite to what is stated in the above quote. If God was unjust, there would be no free will option for the humanity whatsoever, but in fact it does exist from the creation, from the very beginning. God has his own will, God's will. And it is perfectly summarized by the verse which reads, God does not want anyone to perish, but for all to be saved. Respectfully, he keeps his will to himself. He keeps his will apart from our will, allowing us to make that choice. Free will that is given to humankind is the ability to choose for ourselves, the choice being in the most simplistic terms between good and evil. That's all. Free will is a gift, an invitation, and an opportunity from God for the humankind to use our mind, because God has made us intelligent. Free will only comes with the price of accountability. It means that for every choice we make, be it good or bad, there will be consequences. Have you ever wondered why our world has become such a dangerous and hostile place to be? Why do we have skyrocketing criminality rates? Why is immorality proliferating with the speed of light? Why most of the families are falling apart? Why are there wars, famines, disease, epidemics, whatsoever? These are all the consequences. Yet in spite of all those choices that we make, wrong choices that we make, God gives us a chance to change and to be forgiven. The world knows about Jesus, but the world openly laughs at this knowledge. And with that, they just further bring the destruction on their own heads. God did not make us to be his slaves, but his friends. The best way to understand the personality of God is through the analogy of God being a parent and humankind being a child. Every right-in-the-head parent defines reasonable boundaries for his child, rewarding correct behaviors and disciplining for crossing the established borders or boundaries, okay? Parents do it for the love, out of love for their children, and not because they're mean. It is just the same analogy with God. See, I'm setting before you today blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am giving you today. The curse, if you disobey the commandments of the Lord your God and turn away from the way that I command you today by following other gods, which you have not known. I have called heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you, life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your seed may live. Control freaks do not give a choice, or they only pretend to do so, as was successfully demonstrated by the world leaders throughout the last few years. God is not a human, and he does not come to be us with a stick. He allows natural consequences created with our own hands to take their full effect in our lives. If my child messes up the kitchen, guess who is going to be the one lucky to clean up the house? Lastly, God does not enjoy violence, and he is not a racist. God clearly outlines the rules and the boundaries and advises us to choose wisely. God warns before punishing, as he did before the flood, as he did before bringing the 10 plagues onto Egypt, as he did before destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, before he destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD, before the upcoming judgment day. But there were very few willing to listen and to believe, and sadly there are still very few. God gave a choice to everyone and sent Jesus to pay for the sins of all. No matter your skin color, no matter your gender, or any other socioeconomic or geopolitical features the humankind can come up with. The only condition for that is that we're willing to choose good and accept his standards of life into our life. God's will is to have everyone saved, and he shows no partiality. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. If you find value in my videos, please share, like, and subscribe. I will be most open to your comments and questions, as well as the suggestions for the upcoming topics. My videos are bilingual. You will be able to find a link to my Russian channel in the description below any of my recordings. May grace of God be abundantly upon you, and I will see you later.